Maybe I'll take these outside tomorrow, but today I still don't feel like it, so we're still in. But here's something that I do want to say. So I think it's very strange how, in today's society, everyone has the opportunity to tell their own story. Now, for a very long time, I just didn't want to tell my story. I felt like it was like way too sad. Some parts were just like, I don't want to go around every fucking day telling a sad story. Like nobody does. That will make depression worse. I don't know who didn't know that, but if you need to hear that, like you need a variety of good and bad moments. I think Bill Maher just did an amazing job of explaining this. He was basically making a mockery of how Americans think about karma, right? He was like, yo, like, y'all need to stop with the karmic bullshit because, like, there's an equal number of good things and bad things that happen to everyone. And if you stay alive for long enough, bad things will happen to you because that's just how, like, life works. But some people are out here thinking like, oh, like you did something bad to someone else and now this is why something is happening to you. Like this causation sort of situation, and like that's not even the case. I mean, there's just so many examples, bro, where people I'm in an example right now where like there's not even justice for shit that has like evidence. It's just like sometimes the world is just fucked up, but it just sucks because in a lot of cases it's like the same people who tend to have, shit work in their favor and then other people who just like don't, and it is really weird. I wonder if I'm gonna play it because it was really good.
Whoopi said I was flippant and immoral for saying it's time to chuck the masks
Oop.
back to normal. Well, are 43 states here in America and the entire nations of England, Denmark, Sweden, and Finland flippant because they're saying the same thing now? COVID is so much more complicated than just, I'm for more safety than you are, therefore I'm a better person. But Whoopi is misinformed on many aspects of the COVID debate. After she got it recently, she said that being vaccinated, quote, doesn't stop Omicron, and that's the problem with the variant because it gets stronger. Actually, it usually gets weaker, as is the case with this one. But that's okay. She's allowed to be wrong. Fuck, it's 11 a.m. Who can think clearly at that hour? I'm still in REM sleep. And as I mentioned last week, how could a nation like America have maintained an apartheid state for the vast majority of its history and expect the views of the races to match on all matters? It's amazing they match on any. Whoopi Goldberg shouldn't have to conform to or apologize for her views on race, as much as I disagree with them. And she certainly shouldn't have to sit out like a child and think about what she did. The View suspending someone for sharing a view is like firing Pat Sajak for selling a vowel. We have got to get past this endless, unforgiving, zero-tolerance mindset bent on punishing and disappearing anyone caught saying the wrong thing. The right response to speech you don't like is more speech, not the lazy, cowardly response of canceling people. This is a big country with lots of people who don't think like you. We all only need to agree on free speech itself. That's my religious belief. That's the timeless principle I live by. I don't like what Whoopi said about race. She didn't like what I said about COVID. So what? The real essence of karma, by the way, is non-attachment, letting shit go. It's very zen. Oh, and by the way, no one knows what that means either. All right, that's our show.
I think I missed the part that was actually about the karma.
Sorry. America make him look stupid. It's wrong. For he has to get... You can't... Sorry, but life is random. The only word to describe it when a big game hunter gets trampled by an elephant and then eaten by lions is hilarious.
Oh, okay, that's that one.
Karma, sorry. And finally, new rule, stop saying that Whoopi Goldberg getting yanked from The View right after she attacked me on The View is karma. There's no such thing as karma, sorry. Sorry, but life is random. The only word to describe it when a big game hunter gets trampled by an elephant and then eaten by lions is hilarious. Now, I mentioned this karma stuff on the show last week because I was relating how many texts and emails I got from people congratulating me on receiving a karmagram from the universe. In the form of Whoopi Goldberg's chastisement. So I thought this would be a good time for a little tutorial on karma, which, as Americans understand it, is nothing more than an extension of the common logical fallacy called post hoc ergo propter hoc. Which means after that, because of that. It's the fallacy that happens when someone assumes that if one thing follows another, then the first thing must have caused the second thing. Like, I wore green socks every day last year and I never got into a car accident. Green socks must prevent car accidents.
Green socks must prevent car accidents.
People make this mistake all the time. But honestly, washing your car doesn't really make it rain. If it did, we would have tried it here by now. But this is how Americans see karma. But karma is not a system of reward and punishment. That's Catholicism. Karma is a Sanskrit word meaning action. You make the conscious choice to put good out into the world. Karma is the memory of our souls, the sum of a person's actions in previous states of existence that decide their fate in future existences. Of course, that's all bullshit, too. I mean, reincarnation, really? If that was real, wouldn't we have some evidence by now? A raccoon spelling out an acorns? Help me! My name is Herb Zoller, and I got trapped in this raccoon body. I have a meeting next week, and I can't show up as a raccoon. So yes, the Buddhist version of karma is, well, certainly unprovable, but at least it's a beautiful, positive thought. But what Americans did was take karma, and like everything else in this hateful, spiteful country, turn it into something bitter and nasty.
Yeah.
We use it like, you took the last cupcake, and God will have my revenge. Ellen was mean to her staffers, and then she lost her show. Karma! You voted for Trump, and now you have COVID. Karma, now die.
Yeah, I mean, that's
something
intense.
that was meant to be gentle, kind, and hopeful, and turned it into a Tarantino movie. Someone did you wrong, and then sometime later, something bad happened to them. Karma. No. Something bad was bound to happen to them at some point because they're alive. If you keep living, some bad things will happen. Only in this dumb country do we all make it about ourselves and connect the two and call it karma.
Man.
You stole the parking spot I was waiting for at Trader Joe's. Enjoy your early onset dementia. No. What Americans really mean when we say karma, The foreign word that really describes our feeling is not found in Sanskrit. It's found in German, Schadenfreude, meaning getting pleasure out of someone else's misfortune. But your
Yeah.
old high school boyfriend didn't wind up a janitor because he dumped you a week before the prom. He's a janitor because he got 600 on his SATs. And Whoopi Goldberg getting suspended by The View isn't karma, and I wouldn't want it if it was. People have to learn to disagree in this country and not hate for it.
Okay, so I think you kind of got the gist there, where he's, breaking down karma and talking about Whoopi. But even more than that, I think, like, man, how can I put it? Like, in my personal experience, and it's very strange because, like, in my lived experience, it's the people who are like supposed to support me that have been like the worst of all of the people. Like the strangers and shit, they don't really seem to care one way or another, which is kind of like refreshing because at least they're not out to like physically harm me, right? But it's like my family members have been the ones who are like out to physically, mentally harm me, like steal my shit, do whatever that they can. And the weird part about it is none of this makes them better. They don't become better people. Their lives don't improve in any way. They gain literally nothing. But I don't know why they do it. It's almost like their own lives have been so fucked up and just so full of trauma that like they believe that by, I don't know, wishing bad on me or making comedy out of my life, that their lives, it's just fucking ridiculous. And then there's this other thing about like comparison, like, oh no, I'm so different, like I'm not, like, it's just like, I really wish that my name would just be taken out of everyone else's narrative. Just take my name out. Like, I don't need to be included. There's no reason that I should be included in your narrative. I think that what you should do is go along in your narrative and be like, yo, here's what's happening in my life, and then have your wins and have your losses like everyone else. And I don't think it's useful for you to really know anything about my life. I think it's probably better if you know nothing about my life, because it does feel like that information is not being used in some way to provide congratulatory, like, high fives or something. It just feels like it's being used to compare to their own pathetic lives. And like the part about this that's super weird to me, and not even to be like funny, but like my mom's like ex-fiance Bobby, he has this like family with like Crystal and Venus and shit. And I mean, I think that Venus is normal, but like Crystal's family is just super fucking strange. Like her mom and her dad are both like priesters or pastors or some shit. And like her mom just always has these like weird ass worldviews. They're like those people in the Medea movies. You know those people, the black people in the Medea movies, the black people, they're just kind of like, you like know they're slow, like mentally, like they could never be like something academic. And then even her, like, she's like a social worker, which is like the fuzziest major of them all. I just, I don't understand. It's like the fuzzies always believe that they like know something about society, and it's so frustrating to me. It's so frustrating. And I think that there should be a place for them in society, but like I don't want to live among them. And so for me, it's extremely frustrating because like at least in this country, the social systems are broken because like there are people who could really benefit from social services, but those just aren't the people who are getting the social services. Like there's actual homes where children are being abused, and like, people are being, seniors are being not taken care, all this shit. But like to actually get down to doing that work is like really hard, and the people we have going into social work are stupid. So like no problem is being solved. because like they just want to take home their like checks at the end of the day and then go live their lives. Like that's all they have. But like the now the sad part about this is like they can only do shit in society that they understand exists. If they don't understand certain other aspects of society exist, there's no way they could like fill those gaps or like solve those problems in any way. Like that doesn't exist because like they don't know that that stuff is happening. I don't know if that makes any sense to you, but it makes sense to me. It's almost like if you've never seen abuse happen in a particular community, like say like the Latino community, there's all these stereotypes around Latino families where they always stick together and they're so great and like they have the perfect model of a family. That's interesting because also like the highest rates of poverty in America are among those Latino families. I mean, I think like black might be like a little bit higher, but Latinos like trotting after. Like the highest rates of wealth are Asian families. So why isn't anyone when you're trying to promote like whatever model families look like, shouldn't you have like an Asian family cuz like they're the richest, they're the most successful, they have the least criminal activity. Those are the stats. So where are the social workers? What are they not understanding? Why don't they go into the Latino community and try to solve the problems? Well, it's because like if they go into Latino communities and then actually like take children out of homes where there's like real crime and violence, there has to be a record of this. And now with one record and two records and three records and all the records of all the children who have been abused in those homes, like come then now it changes the stereotype around Latino families being like good or wholesome, and now they just are like predatory, which is like what's actually happening. Or this other idea where like black families are predatory, which is why you can hear Azealia Banks talking about in New York when she was growing up, you know, she never wanted to go to school and pretend like anything was wrong because in her neighborhood, there was like a very, very high rate of stealing children away from their parents. Social services would come in at any moment and just take a child away from their mothers. Like, this is a very common thing happening in America to black families. And Azealia Banks talks about this a lot. It, like that has nothing to do with karma. That has everything to do with the structure in American society, and it's really sad. But I don't think that the world in because like I highly doubt that the next generation of black people is going to, it's like whatever that was with the last generation. I guess it was cute, right? It wasn't cute, it was awful, and it was like it was fucking awful, really. But I don't think the next generation is going to be like this. I actually don't see the next generation of black Americans being in America. I see them probably taking their American dollars and like going to Mexico where it's cheap, going to Africa where it's cheap, and just living better. And unfortunately, what that leaves in America is white trash. Because all the systems of black people failing in America are beneficial for the other racial groups. Like the more black children that don't know how to read, the better it is for like white children and Asian children and Latino children and all the other children, because then those black children can go to prison, and then those white trash kids can go be police officers, and they can go like arrest black children, and they can go put them in jail, and now they can get jobs being like jail officers, and they can get jobs being like cafeteria people in prisons, right? The school to prison pipeline is real. So those people want easy jobs too, because like they're not smart, they couldn't be like engineers or doctors or anything, but they could definitely be like security guards in prisons. That's a thing. They can do that. And most of them do. it's like a very popular job for that population. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's a thing. That's a really real thing. I guess another thing that I wonder sometimes, and it is a bit confusing for me, like, I don't know, and I think this is about a lot of people just coming from the developing world and having an idea that their backwards view of women in the developing world holds here. It's very strange, but whatever. You can't. You're not. I'm not gonna change people. I'm not gonna change people, and I think it's another reason why so many groups have like literally separated themselves, not in a light way, like they've literally just separated themselves by like racial groups. And when you talk to immigrants, they always talk about like, well, it's like this like it's like this like group thing happening here where all these people, they don't want to like be with us, like it's just so hard to like, everybody's so judgy here and they're all like blah blah blah. Like I don't think that's it at all, but I think there's some shit in the counterculture of people coming from the developing world where like in America, people are like individuals. It's about individuality. So like people are literally just making their own choices and doing the things that they want to do that will make hopefully like their lives better, and hopefully like they're following the law. But like it isn't about some culture from like 500 years ago. Like it isn't about that. And I feel like I'm unfortunately starting to see this like in the Indian culture. I don't want to call them all Indians, but kind of like in the Indian culture where like the men specifically, I feel like they are clustering women, all women, in like these ways. It's a lot about purity politics. Like that seems to be a really big thing in that like group. And in terms of like, there's like attractiveness scales, that's a thing. So there's like a lot of featureism. I am not into featureism at all, but usually when it does come down to featureism, like I have a very defined, nose and a particular skin color, so it does get a little bit tricky, and eyes, but like it gets a little tricky to understand like what exactly I like. Yeah, it can get a little tricky to sort of like pin me into one little box because I don't fit very neatly. That's the point. um but um yeah, I think that I don't know. I guess all in all, it feels like it's not like the safest society for women. And I feel like the more women that I talk to who have just tried to kind of like grow up and then, interact with because you can only interact with the other people who are there. I feel like for some reason there's this idea that like you can have relationships with people who aren't alive and who don't exist and who are not in your community and who you don't know. Be like, that's not real. Like what you can do is you can have relationships with the people who are alive, the people who are alive, the people who and can talk to. But you can't really have relationships with the other people because you don't know them. Like, to you they don't actually exist. Your worldview is kind of small because you can only like talk to the people who actually exist. And unfortunately, like those people are not the best people. The people we have out in society right now are kind of shitty, especially the men of all the races. But the men, they're like shitty. They're shitty. They're kind of trash. And I'm not saying that just to be mean and to like be spiteful. I'm saying like the data kind of backs me up here. And I mean, I do think there's like a small group of maybe like white women who've been kind of like sheltered from this in a way, just because like they've got like American structure protecting them, and then their families protecting them, and some really good guys protecting them. But unfortunately, like a lot of the other groups just don't really have that. And there are women, out in society from those groups too. And like it's actually important for like us to live too. And I think the part where these shitty men, they don't understand, like everyone is someone's daughter. Everyone is someone's daughter. So when you're doing this thing where you like go to some other group and you're like, well, I'm gonna treat her like blah 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 blah, whatever it is, if it's like some, you know, bad or awful way, well, that's someone's daughter. Maybe not yours, but certainly someone's. And that means that someone cares about her. And I don't think it's just one person. You know, really everyone has a community, and it doesn't have to be their family. It could be their friends who are like rooting for them. It could be someone younger who that person is a mentor for, and somebody is rooting for them. And when these predatory men go out and they're hurting these women, their feelings, their actual physical beings, their reputations, all these things, now you're destroying that woman for some other dude who she could be really great for. You're destroying that woman for some other guy who she could be great for. Now she's not great for that other guy. And now that other guy has to find someone else. Or maybe he has to just deal with her brokenness. But either way, it's like more work that has to go into patching her up, where some other person, you know, pushed her down. And that doesn't just happen to one person. It's like this chain, because we live in a society. We live in a society. And the weird part about this with those like guy codes is like guys know the other guys who are out here behaving like this. And they tend to like laugh about it with those guys. And then in the back of their mind, they say, yeah, but that won't be my daughter. But that won't be my sister. But that won't be my cousin. That won't be my mother. Well, who do you think it will be? Like, who? Who do you think it will be? Someone else's mother, someone else's sister, someone else's daughter. And then I've heard the logic like, yeah, but you know, that's how the world is. Is it? Like, I wonder what those people are going to do, you know, when their own children come home and tell them that they've been raped. When their own sisters are crying on their shoulders that they've been raped. Because maybe people are just really misunderstanding. Those types of things are not happening in back alleys, okay? They're happening on college campuses. They're happening with safe people that you meet at work, okay? They're happening at upscale bars, at birthday parties, everywhere, at basketball games, after games, at parks, everywhere it's happening. There isn't like, it's not, oh, you shouldn't have been in that place, you shouldn't have wore that, it's all your fault, because no. When you watch it happen to some other woman and then you say ha 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 ha, well, all you're doing is making space for it to happen to you. And if not you, because you're of a certain gender, then the people in your life who do fit the description. Because you're not going to be with them 24/7. You're not. And that's a part of, I feel like women understand that. Most women in general understand that and are fighting to try to make the society better. For some reason, it feels like the men only give a shit about the women in their own lives. And they can't really see past that. And that's strange. That's strange. Because, like, that's so strange.